John Hughston here, just eating some Dr. Pepper. Cotton candy. Tastes like Dr. Pepper. So, bada bing, bada boom, bada boom, bada bing. Haven't made a video in a while. Here's my old Back to the Future hat. You've probably seen many of these rainbow Back to the Future hats. They're all over the place. You can get them at Universal Studios everywhere. You can get them online, all over the place. But not this one. You can't get this one all over the place. This is a brand called Mirage. Mirage made some unauthorized reproductions of the Back to the Future hat. This is not a Mirage. This is, I would say, the second rarest version of the Back to the Future hat in existence. This is just a red version from Mirage, but Mirage also made a rainbow version. And when fans said, hey, the hat in the movie doesn't have a button on the top, it doesn't have holes on the top, it doesn't have a hole in the back, it doesn't have sew lines on the brim. Fans are real specific about exact details. And what this is right here, if you notice the colors shifting, the colors shift pretty interestingly. Take a look at it. The reason the colors shift so beautifully on this thing is because this is an early 90s Universal Studios gift shop Back to the Future Part 2 hat. This is pretty rare. They didn't make too many of these. They sold these in both Hollywood and Florida, but I think primarily Florida. This particular one has Universal Studios Florida stamped on the back. So I know this one came from Florida. I might have seen one in Hollywood in the 90s, but I don't recall, and I also didn't have any money on me. And I remember during that whole trip, the only souvenir we got was a Quantum Leap shot glass. That was back when there was still Quantum Leap stuff at the Universal Studios Hollywood gift shop. And there was a few Back to the Future things, and there was the ride. I was able to go on the Back to the Future ride a good number of times. I probably went on it 10 times. Then they close it down. Then they switch it to The Simpsons. And it's very similar. The Simpsons ride and the Back to the Future ride, very similar. You're just in a little roller coaster that moves and does different movements. I'm sure they reprogrammed it to do different movements, but generally speaking, it's a very similar ride. They just changed the whole artistic vision of the whole ride from Back to the Future to The Simpsons, which is sad because Back to the Future is a fan favorite. Everyone loves it. But even back then, I got to see the 2015 Future Texaco. I did the Universal Studios tour, and I saw the clock tower. It looked exactly as it looked in all the movies. And I got to see the futuristic Texaco before they tore it down. So I did do that tour a number of times, and I did see the clock tower a number of times, but only on that one instance did I see the futuristic Texaco. And then, of course, shortly after, they ripped it down. And not knowing where the Cafe 80s was, I saw the building that the Cafe 80s was used for, but all the designs and signs and decorations concerning it were already stripped down to like a bookstore. I think it was, when I saw it, it was already changed from Cafe 80s to a bookstore, something to that effect. And then the Cafe 80s building burned down. There's a fire department on the Universal Studios Hollywood lot, so I'm surprised that their reaction time was so slow. I guarantee if you are a fireman at the Universal Studios lot, you pretty much just sit around playing solitaire all day. You're not going to expect there to be a big fire, but there was. And the clock tower even got a little bit of fire on it. And it's not too bad, but apparently the Cafe 80s building totally burned down. It was already changed 10 different times from 10 different plus productions. TV shows, movies, already changed it dozens of times, repainted it, redid the windows. They just redo it. It's just a facade. It's just scaffolding and thin boards. It's not an actual livable building. So when Robert Zemeckis heard about the fire, he's like, it's just, you do a production and then you just forget about it. Props weren't a big thing. I know for a fact there was a guy who got a bunch of props from Back to the Future from a guy that he knew working at Universal Studios a lot. Back then, he was so loosey-goosey, they would literally throw millions of dollars worth of props in the trash. The most valuable props to a studio are reusable props. You can't exactly reuse a hoverboard from Back to the Future Part 2. It's already a hoverboard from Back to the Future Part 2. So some dude bought like a dozen hoverboards. A bunch of stuff. I remember I took a tour, which you could walk into. It was a tiny building. You walked into, and it just had random memorabilia from random movies. And they had Back to the Future memorabilia. And as a kid, I didn't realize they were actual props from the actual movie. I thought they were replicas. Because the props, even back then, as a kid, were so iconic, I didn't think they would just shove them on the side of a wall that you could touch. But the handlebars for the Mattel hoverboard were just sitting there in a box with like a Home Depot piece of metal screwed into a wooden box. So no one could take it, but you could grab it. And I grabbed the handlebars, and I got to touch the actual handlebars from the Mattel hoverboard in Back to the Future Part 2. It was the actual ones. And back then, on the Back to the Future ride, you could see a lot of props in like shadow boxes and behind plexiglass displays. And I got to see the futuristic jacket, at least one of them. There are many. There's one that actually blows up, many different ones. There's one with the sleeve really long, one with the sleeve all perfect. But the futuristic jacket that blew up and air dried itself, I got to see it close up. We're talking like this far away, and there were a bunch of bumps and dots. It looked like just a lot of red dots. Like the whole thing was made out of one rubber mold, is what it looked like, but really crafted elaborately. But this here is a early 90s Back to the Future Universal Studios gift shop hat. They literally sold so few of these because this lenticular cloth made to construct these comes from the actual reams of cloth they used in the actual movie. When Universal Studios ordered some of these rainbow hats for the futuristic movie, let's face it, it was probably China that said, that cloth is very expensive to make. It's so expensive, minimum order is over 1,000 yards or 20,000 yards. Whatever they knew they could get out of the studio, they had to order like 10,000 yards, 5,000 yards. We don't know how many yards, but it was way more than the studio needed. I'm sure they had 10 hats sitting there for actor Michael J. Fox. But the leftover, studios don't like wasting money, so they turn them into gift shop replicas. The gift shop replicas don't look like the ones in the movie. They have holes, they have button tops, they have this black brim piping. The inside has some really cool red silk. You don't see this red silk on any of them. So I wonder if the real hat in the real movie had red silk on the inside. It's possible. The back is adjustable, just the old school adjustable style. But what I love about this is it exactly is the exact rainbow as the hat from the movie. So where did I get this? How did I score this? Well, after I learned about the rarity of these hats in the early 2000s, I checked Fleabay every day for 1,000 years until I found one for sale. Only one. In the past 20 years, I've only seen one for sale. That's it. So I snagged it. It was dirt cheap. The guy selling it Didn't even put Back to the Future in the title. He just put Universal Studios, Rainbow Hat, whatever. So I got super lucky. This is my favorite Back to the Future item. I used to have a huge Back to the Future collection. My Back to the Future collection was so legendary that pieces I've departed and sold and got rid of have gone into Back to the Future museums. Okay, we're talking, I had a Cafe 80s silly straw and a Fusion Bar silly straw from the gift shop, the same gift shop that would have sold a hat like this. And those silly straws are so rare. I also sold a Cafe 80s glass with the Cafe 80s silly straw. Extremely rare. Like they must have only sold them for like 1 year and then never again. So they got scattered and destroyed and thrown in gut dumps, and very few have remained. There's a picture of some guy that has like 4 of these in a display case. So I really sought them out, snagged one, dirt cheap. This was way cheaper than even a Mirage hat. These Mirage hats are extremely rare. I have a good 4, 5, 6 Mirage hats. Mirage is a pretty cool company that went under, disappeared, gone forever. So a lot of people didn't want the big M. I know you can't really see it too good, but I like the M. It's kind of like cool. Mysterialis is my brand, so the M kind of fits. Back to the Future. Big Back to the Future fan. Got rid of tons of my Back to the Future stuff because it started getting too trendy. Too trendy. I don't know. When something gets too trendy, I automatically am turned off by it, and it's not for me. I like obscure stuff. As obscure gets. So what am I doing these days? Well, let's ask Panic Pete. I did have a Panic Pete as a kid, but back then they called it a Martian popper, something like that. Popping Martian. So Panic Pete's name has changed over the years. I think he was called like a Popping Martian or something. So I got a Panic Pete. I had to pre-order Panic Pete. I'm sure you're familiar with Panic Pete. Here he is. This is the old Panic Pete. This Panic Pete has hard eyes and a hard nose and hard ears. Much different than the Panic Pete I had as a kid. Pretty cool. I like, these de-stressing things. Here's my Pirates of the Caribbean fidget spinner. I think this Dr. Pepper cotton candy's from Dollywood. I've never been to Dollywood. Never been there. I recently went to Universal Studios, though. Went on the Jurassic World ride. So it was the first time I've been on the Jurassic World ride since it changed from the Jurassic Park ride to the Jurassic World ride. And it's definitely an improvement in some areas, but it seems shorter. It's probably the exact same amount of time, but it seems pretty short. You wait in line for an hour, sometimes 2 hours. It's like a 4-minute ride. I guess I can tell you a story while we're here. People like supernatural stories. I'll tell you this. I'll talk about ghosts, and some people will assume I'm some type of conspiracy freak. So they'll start talking about how Siri spies on you. And I'm like, don't care, not interested. They assume if you believe in ghosts and you have ghost hunting equipment that you're automatically some type of flat earther. Earth ain't flat. The earth is a sphere. I saw a video. Some dude's trying to prove the earth is flat using lasers, using a bunch of cutout holes. He accidentally proved the earth is a sphere because the farther he goes away from the laser and the holes, it's supposed to be perfectly straight, but it wasn't. There is a curve. He proved the earth has a curve. I got sick, and I'll tell you how I got sick. From standing in line at Universal Studios for like 5 hours straight, just standing in line for 5 hours. They have these misting machines blowing in your face, blowing germs all over your face. That's what's going on. So I got sick. I got sick for standing in line. The Jurassic World ride alone, I went on it twice, and I probably stood in line for 3 hours just to go on it twice. It's pretty intense. And so you're next to people you don't know for extended periods of time. I caught something, bada bing, bada boom, bada boom, bada bing, got sick, all right? I feel bad for the people that are online, jumping like a chimpanzee, dancing like a chimpanzee, doing cartwheels like a chimpanzee. The guy playing the music box and the poor monkey on a chain doing its thing for a couple dollars here and there. I feel bad for people like that, and I'm never going to be a person like that, and I'm not that, never have been, never will be. Shoot, you give me an offer for $100,000, I'll make a video. I'll fly across the country and shoot a ghost hunting video on a location of your choice. We're going to prove definitively, after camping at that location for a month straight, every single night, 24-hour lockdown for 30 days in a row. We're talking 30 days of lockdown. We're going to prove definitively whether that location's haunted or not. A lot of atheists and skeptics and non-believers and never-believers, they always have the same takeaway. They're like, haunted places don't exist. It's a myth. If you're persistent enough, which they are not, they're quitters and they give up. If you're persistent enough, you can prove definitively whether a place is haunted or not. Spirits are invisible beings, okay? See, atheists and skeptics and non-believers and never-believers, they don't even fathom the nature of what spirits are. Spirits are entities that don't give a crap about humans. They don't give a crap about how humans think. They could care less on what you want. They could care less about what you think and what you do. They don't care because they see humans as such a subspecies. They're hanging out in the corner of a room for 1,000 years. You think they care about one person standing there for 10 minutes trying to prove whether they exist? They don't. They're going to be like in a hibernation mode. So sometimes with some spirits, you really got to camp it out there for 30 days type situation. I'm surprised I got any spirit contact at the Comedy Store when I went there. A lot of people say, this is you didn't prove anything. This is not the greatest investigation. Cameras are banned in the location. Audio recorders are banned inside the location. Even comedians that work at the location get hassled about recording their own set so they can review it and hear if the jokes worked or not. Even people who work inside of it aren't given permission to record video or audio. So how do you think it is for just some random person to walk in? The store sees it as a tourist. So they were very, very annoyed at even the concept of a ghost hunter going to their location 3 days in a row, 3 nights in a row. But at the end of the 3rd night in a row, one of the spirits made contact with me. And I've never told this before, but I looked down at my feet, and there was something at my foot. And I picked it up and I took it home. I consider it perhaps a coincidence that someone dropped something near my feet, but I also consider it a possibility, a rare one, but a small possibility that the spirit that contacted me at the Comedy Store gave me a souvenir before I left. And I still have that souvenir. I still have it around here somewhere. It's around here somewhere. It's an item of interest. It's actually an interesting thing. I would say even a good year before I visited the Comedy Store, I was doing some searches on L.W. DeLawrence, one of my favorite authors of all time. He wrote such amazing books as this one right here. I'd say this is one of my most impressive occult books in my entire collection. I'll show it to you right here. This is an impressive book. The Book of Magical Art, Hindu Magic, and Indian Occultism by Dr. L.W. DeLawrence. This is an impressive book. It's the leather edition, an early edition. Beautiful. So, not too many people have this, all right? This is a very rare edition to have this. I have a pretty big collection. I'd say one of the biggest L.W. DeLawrence collections on Earth. I'm probably in the top 10. Maybe I'm the 10th biggest L.W. DeLawrence library collection on Earth. Maybe the 10th. I don't know. Maybe I'm the 20th. But I'm pretty high up there, I would say, in terms of collecting L.W. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I got something around 20 L.W. books just sitting here. Many first editions, many second editions, leather editions, rare editions. This is a super rare L.W. thing that doesn't have his name on it. So he published some things anonymously. Here's something from L.W., the Buddhist Catechism. So he was all over the place. He definitely, I was looking for my little curio thing. Here it is. Here's a super rare L.W. curio booklet. He published so many things, I'd say it's in the neighborhood of 100 plus things. Very prolific author / borrowed from other authors and republished. But he was an occultist to the extreme. So I study and research L.W. a lot. And he has a catalog of rare talismans, magical talismans, and the like. You know, just knick-knack, mumbo-jumbo, voodoo, hoodoo type trinkets you can buy. And, on the side he sold books, mainly books, but then on the side he sold trinkets. And even magical pens, magical handkerchiefs, you name it. So it went into the realm of, just novelty. Okay, most definitely. But I saw some cool tokens, and I have some of the tokens, but most of them are from the 1800s, early 1900s, are impossible to find. But I have a couple of them. But I was looking at the rings. They're like magical rings. There's like a 777, like good luck gambling ring. There's a bunch of different cool rings, all right? Some of them look like the type of ring you would see in a 25-cent gumball machine, toy machine. You got gumballs, then you got toys, and a little cheap little aluminum ring. Some of them look super cheap, but they're still a cool design, and they claim to be magic when really it's just a gimmick, okay? But so I researched these rings like a year before I went to the Comedy Store. I researched the crap out of these magical rings, trying to find one because they're not exactly going to be stamped with L.W. DeLawrence on them. L.W. also clearly grabbed some random things that were already in existence. He didn't make them himself. He was just reselling magical trinkets from other sources, okay? He clearly did go to India. So India was a huge impression. It left a huge impression on him, and he wrote books on Indian magic. There's one book I haven't read yet. I still really want to read. Oracle of Life and Destiny. No, it's not this one. India's Hood Unveiled. So this is one I really want to do a book review on, and I will. India's Hood Unveiled. So he does have a lot of Indian magic books. He wears a turban and calls himself Dr. L.W. DeLawrence. He's since passed on a long, long time ago. But I researched these rings because I know for a fact they're not going to be attributed to L.W. They're just going to be some random ring, some antique ring. So you have to use some very vague search terms. And I could never find an exact one. But at the foot of my feet on the second or third night at the Comedy Store, I saw what looked like one of those rings sitting at my foot at the Comedy Store. I have the ring around here somewhere. I'll show it to you in the future. It's not a big deal. But it's a big deal to me because it's a very antique ring that no one's walking around wearing in modern day comedy clubs, okay? And perhaps it's the spirit of the Comedy Store literally reaching out to me to the level of dropping an impossible object at the foot of my feet. I have some trinkets in here. No, I didn't put it in here. I have so many trinkets that I kind of lost track of the exact location of this ring, but I did consider it important, and so it is in the vicinity. When I come across it, I will show it to you in a future video. But as far as recently, spirit contact, haven't had any. But like I was saying, atheists, skeptics, non-believers, never believers, if they were simply patient and gave what they consider these non-existent beings some benefit of the doubt, if they simply open their mind, not to an insane degree, just a little bit. All you got to do is open your mind a little bit. Have a little bit of patience, and spirits will begin to scuffle. And when spirits scuffle, it's kind of like a human being scuffling. They literally make what sounds like human being sounds. Sometimes animal type sounds, but definitely footsteps type sounds you will hear in a location that you know of a surety is nothing there. But it's a spirit. But you really have to have patience. Now, it's hard to really put that information down in a book, but I did. I did write a ghost hunting book. I apologize, it's not printed to the masses and out there yet. Spirits exist. Ghosts exist. Spirit matter exists. So non-entity spirit matter itself is a scientific reality in this universe. See, skeptics, atheists, non-believers, and never believers, they don't even have an open mind to the concept of spirit matter existing in the universe. So basically, they know about dark matter. They've heard about dark matter. They've heard about it. They've known about it. And they know about it. They hear about it. And it goes in one ear and out the other, and it's inconvenient, so they reject even dark matter. Because I'll give you a little piece of information. Some of that dark matter out there is actually spirit matter, period. Okay? It doesn't matter how many times you flash a light bulb on it, it's never going to reflect light ever. Okay? Because spirit matter doesn't reflect light. Okay? Spirit matter is 100% invisible to this dimension. Okay? Spirit matter isn't invisible to the dimension it's native to, which is a higher dimension. You just pop yourself on up into the 5th dimension, 6th dimension, 7th dimension. You could probably flash all the spirit lights on this spirit matter and it probably will fully illuminate, no big deal. But from our optically limited dimensional perspective, we can't see spirits easily until they manifest, until they materialize. And even then, it's an iffy thing, which is very hard to reproduce in the lab, if not impossible. Higher dimensional beings, we don't know anything about them, okay? We just pretend we do. So, how come scientists haven't proven spirits exist? We don't even know if spirits can prove if spirits exist, okay? We don't know how limited they are. For all we freaking know, spirits have to be in a certain light, a certain dimensional parallel alignment to be seen for a fraction of a second and then gone. Even from the spirit's perspective, in the spirit's dimension, even they might be limited to what they can show us. So it's just a lack of communication, if you will, from the perspective of a lack of the ability to see them because of that dimensional barrier. It's all science. It's all scientifically related. Spirits being invisible and us not being able to prove they exist. But there are methods, there are techniques that I have employed and used just by using common sense, using instinct, using trial and error. So most definitely I didn't know all of these things. I've learned over the years, over the many months, what works, what doesn't. Every spirit is different, but it seems if you camp it out and wait it out, give the potential for a spirit to be there the benefit of the doubt, you will hear and see scuffling. You can record and capture the English language in a full-blown sentence responding to you. When that shouldn't be the case, it should be impossible. It doesn't matter how many times a ghost hunter really records that stuff and plays it back for the audience. The audience is always going to say, they put that in post. That's just special effects. So it's almost only benefited, that information is almost only useful to the investigator themselves. It wouldn't matter if I had 20,000 hours of EVP audio of full-blown conversations with a spirit. It wouldn't matter, because that information would be seen as you tweaked your voice, you're talking to yourself, you went into a computer and you did all this yourself, and it's all fake. See, only the investigator themselves, firsthand, that plays it back for the first time, listens to it for the first time, is blown away for the first time, only they know of a surety what's going on in that situation. Unless they're dumber than a stone, dumber than a rock, dumber than a sack of boulders, because I have seen ghost investigators on TV record something, play it back, and it's like, shut up and go to hell. And they're like, I wonder what that message could have meant. Is it a human? Is it a demon? What's going on? We will never know. Even when a negative entity starts cussing out the investigators, do I see TV investigators act so irrationally? They act almost like a cartoon would react to it, almost like a Scooby-Doo episode where it becomes comical. And then you question, is this thing all fake? Could be, because it's on TV. But I'm not on TV. I'm just some dude with a bunch of equipment. Hook it up, bada bing, bada boom, go to a place, wait it out, camp it out, spend a lot of time at the location. I've been at a certain location, an 1830s mill, 7 times? A total of, I would say, almost twice that there. So maybe 14 hours have I spent there in total, separated by years and months with repeated contact. The last time I went there, the entity spoke English, full-blown English. It said something, anywhere. It full-blown said the word anywhere in perfect, clear English. But I suppose only I know that is real, because the audience will always have that question and doubt. And that question and doubt is literally the opposite of faith. It's anti-faith. So there has to be a opposition in things. There's faith, there's anti-faith, there's real faith, and there's false faith. If you believe in something that's fake, you got false faith. Let me just talk about QAnon for a second. QAnon is BS. QAnon is 1 inch away from heaven's gate. Never been a fan of QAnon from day one until today. Never been a fan of QAnon. I dislike QAnon probably even more than I dislike flat earth cultists. QAnon cultists, flat earth cultists. I dislike them equally, all right? But perhaps the QAnon, a little bit more annoying. And I very much dislike the flat earth cultists. So QAnon cultists, flat earth cultists. Because I talk about ghosts and spirits, people will automatically assume there was literally a nut job, literally a straight up straitjacket psycho who contacted me a couple years ago and said, "Did you know Donald Trump is a time traveler?" You probably heard that stupid BS rumor thrown around the internet and only picked up by full-blown screwed up individuals. I feel bad for people that believe in something so stupid, but they exist, you know. And I was like, he said, "Did you know Donald Trump is a time traveler? Maybe connected with John Teeter?" See, this guy knew that I happen to be a John Teeter expert and debunked John Teeter's existence back to being Maury Haber. I'm the first person to ever mention Maury's name in connection with John Teeter. Ever. And you'll see on a wiki reference saying someone else said it. It's not the case. If you look at the records, I'm the first person to ever say it by months and even a year. Because only after I said it did other people start mentioning it. Because the name Maury was hidden to an extreme degree. Even people pretending to be John Teeter investigators were purposely discouraging people away from Maury, even without ever mentioning Maury's name. Anyway, I know for a fact it's Maury, but I didn't get much, if any, credit that he was Maury. It doesn't matter because it's a dead case. It's a dead hoax and a dead scam. But this dude was trying to bait me. He said, "Did you know Donald Trump was a time traveler, possibly connected with John Teeter?" And I said to him as a response, I said, "Did you know you sound like you are an escaped insane asylum patient who just got out of a straitjacket who just escaped from a padded room? Did you know that? Huh?" And he immediately deleted his message to me, deleted all existence of contact with me, because I didn't take the bait. Don't take the bait on these QAnon cult members. Don't take the bait on these flat earth cult members. They're 1 inch away from Heaven's Gate, okay? Heaven's Gate, sad story. Some really easily influenced individuals sadly popped on some Nikes and threw back some Kool-Aid, and things didn't end so great for them, okay? Very sad story, but they were in a cult of extreme evil, okay? Evil cults exist. Evil itself exists. You'll see an attack on evil even existing these days. Because if evil doesn't exist, good doesn't exist. If good doesn't exist, there's no right and wrong. If there's no right and wrong, there's no heaven and hell. There's no God and the devil. I was planning on making a video about the devil, specifically the lowercase. I'll talk about it in the future. Until next time, and yes, I am planning many videos, including that lowercase devil video, including another video, but I've reached the limit where I don't want to edit for 1,000 hours. Until next time, I thank you for watching. This has been John Hughston. Be seeing you.